You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Allie Garcet. What up, Allie?
What's up, Craig? I'm always dancing as you introduce me, and I try to make it a different dance every time, but it ends up being the same one.
Oh
I
yeah,
have no dance moves.
I just thought that was like if you're I envision you coming out like into a wrestling rink, like coming down the aisle and like Allie's like, yeah, that's me. I might start calling you like some new names too. I'll think of some. I'll
Ooh,
think of some for next
I'm
week maybe.
in. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
So yeah, and we're gonna do this whole episode just like kind of hopping and bopping. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, tell me, Allie, give me an update. What's been new with you?
Let's see. I am headed to Pillars Retreat tomorrow
Ooh, where's that at?
in the somewhere in North Carolina. I know I fly I fly into Raleigh and then I get picked up by the Pillars Express, but it's going to be 3 days of like business building, educational stuff because we used to just do like retreats, like just hang out. But it's going to be educational this time, so I'm excited.
Nice, that'll be fun. I feel like you're always off to somewhere, going somewhere. Yeah,
I know, but after this it's going to be calm. Going to be calm, calm, calm.
calm to the holidays.
Yeah, yes. What's up with you?
We're finally back here in Idaho. I just got over a pretty annoying like cold. I'm like still like 5% maybe got a cold, but I think it ended up being my dad. I was back home and my dad tested for COVID and he tested positive, so we think we might have got COVID. But either way, if we didn't test for it, we didn't get it. So that's my thought.
That's is that Craig math?
That's Craig. That's Craig math right there. It was really just like a cold that lasted like 10 days. A
Yeah,
lingering cold. And so
yeah.
because I was here, I didn't lose my energy or anything like that. And then yeah, I have to go clean up a dead chicken later because apparently one of the little chicks died, which is totally a normal thing. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, so that's gonna be what I do right after this.
wow. Oh, dang. I'm sorry for RIP little chick.
We
And
gotta
speaking
start
of
like a
chicks,
speaking of chicks,
speaking of
speaking of
chicks,
chicks,
we
we got
have
a
a
cool chick. That's a
yeah, we got a
great
cool
transition,
cat.
Allie. I tried to steal it from you.
Yay!
Yeah, you take it. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of chicks, we got a cool chick on today. Her name is Tori Borges, and she is an investor, obviously. She's also an agent out in the Pensacola area currently. We'll be talking about her background, how she got into investing. She was also a Coast Guard officer. So if you want to go ahead and give her a follow now instead of waiting to the very, very, very end, Real Tori underscore Rose is her Instagram.
Ooh, yeah, that's a funny play on words there. I really like Tori's story. Ooh, wow, it's all about Tori's story. It could be a
Tori's story. Real
watch out,
Tori.
Eminem, I'm coming for you. Uh, but but her story is really awesome, right? Just kind of coming from I wouldn't say like super super humble beginnings, but like definitely nothing to write home about. And she was able to achieve financial independence and a serious amount of wealth in just a few years. And she didn't move incredibly fast, just doing kind of normal investing that anybody, you or I or anybody could do. And so I just love how relatable her story is. All right, so we're about to bring Tori on. Before we do, though, we have to ask you to please, please, please leave us a rating and review if you haven't already. And if you would take a screenshot of that rating and review and send it to us on Instagram, we would love to see who's writing the reviews. We'd love to see that you do it. And yeah, we'd love to just thank you for it and maybe have a quick little chat with you. So I'm the Fi Guy. Allie is Allie the Agent. And we are about to bring Miss Tori Borges onto the show. What's up, everyone? I got a super excited announcement to make. The FI team is throwing their first ever house hacking intensive. This is going to be in Denver, Colorado, April 5th to April 7th, and we are going to dive deep in house hacking. You are going to learn with a bunch of other future house hackers or current house hackers themselves how to analyze markets, how to find a deal in a neighborhood, how to find the correct house, the correct layout, how to run the numbers, how to build your team of agents, of contractors, of property managers, you name it. And we're going to do all of this together in person in Denver. That's going to be just part of it. It's going to be even better when we actually go to houses in Denver. A couple of my personal house hacks that I've already done, some people on our team's house hacks that they've done, as well as some that are on the market right now. So you can see the before and the afters of what a house hack might look like. This is going to be the first time we throw this event. I don't know when we're going to be throwing it again. Make sure you go to the FIteam.com/workshop to buy your tickets. Tickets are just $297, but if you use the code INVEST2FI, you'll be getting 20% off, and the whole ticket is refundable when you do a deal. So that's right. So go to the FIteam.com/workshop, put in the coupon code INVEST2FI to get your 20% off. And then when you do a deal, when you close on your next deal or your first deal, you will be getting that back 100%. Hope to see you guys all in Denver. I can't wait to meet y'all in person, and I'm super excited for this event. We'll see y'all there. Tori Borges, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I am great. We were just chatting before we got on that we were all at BPCon, but I'm mad at you because you didn't introduce yourself to me. And I have no
I'm
idea.
mad at myself too.
Actually, you know what? We should just both be mad at Allie because Allie knows me and Allie knows you. So
Yeah,
let's
all right,
actually
fine.
let's reverse this trend. Let's just be
Yeah.
mad at Allie. Yeah.
Directed
Tori
to
for
Okay.
friends
Allie,
again.
got it.
I'm logging off, guys. See you later. See you later.
All right, see you, Allie. It's me and Tori now. All right, Tori. So tell us where you obviously you caught the real estate bug. Tell us where that all started and how you first learned about financial independence and when that was.
Sure. So I grew up in New York, and my mom bought her first home when I was about 8, 9 years old. And it was a fixer-upper. Real estate in New York is not very cheap, but she wanted me to go to a good school district. We were living with my grandparents at the time, and she had a goal of purchasing her own home for the two of us. So she bought this little home. And from the time I was young, I was like ripping off wallpaper. She redid most of it. So I got a taste of restoration when I was pretty young. And I always just have loved design, like always watching, the typical shows on HGTV and whatnot. So I knew that I always wanted to fix up a house of my own and make some money doing it. And so I moved to Pensacola, Florida. This past year, I was stationed here previously with the Coast Guard. But that's when I went 100% full time into real estate.
Awesome. So was it just your mom doing this, or did you have other family members helping you?
My uncle is a house flipper and does a ton of investing himself. He isn't 100% in it full time. He is actually a gym teacher in the Bronx with special ed, and he has like a plowing business. Like he does it all. But I've always seen him be really successful doing it. And he does a ton of the work himself. And, he always struggled in school, and it's just kind of like a running joke that it's a miracle that he made it, and he's like the most wealthy out of all of us. And it was all through real estate, really. So I have always looked up to him as well.
That's awesome. So do you remember anything they taught you as a kid growing up, like any of those memories, or was it just ripping off wallpaper?
I wish that I had gotten more like specific training and in teaching from them. But yeah, it was mostly just learning how to hustle from a young age. Like all of my family works so hard and have, done multiple jobs at a time, and we just don't really quit till we're done. So I think growing up in that environment just taught me a lot that made me better as a real estate investor. But my mom's always been really good with the numbers and mortgage and stuff. Like she's always helped me with every house that I've purchased, with the mortgage, with the banks, and just staying organized. Like I was out to sea a couple of times when I purchased a home, and she was the one negotiating. Like she got me 10 grand off the house because of an issue with the roof. Like she's just your typical, like, somewhat aggressive New York mother. She's helped me so much.
That's so cool. And then, so being from New York, especially near the Bronx, you joined the Coast Guard, which so many people in that area do not join the military. I know because I'm from that area. Do you think that played a factor in becoming an agent and becoming an investor as well?
I think so. One, it gave me the money to do so, right? So I had saved up in high school to pay for college because I didn't think that I would go to college for free with the Coast Guard. So I had a ton of savings, and I was able to put down a down payment for my first home, which I don't think if I was in the military, I would have been able to do. But I think also over the last couple years, like a lot of active duty members have gotten super into investing. So I would hear other people like on the ship talk about it. And it just kind of encouraged me to do the same.
What was the reason that you joined the Coast Guard?
So I loved that the Coast Guard was a life-saving service. I think I needed some structure. They had like 8 majors to pick from at the Coast Guard Academy, and one of them was science related. And I always thought I was going to get into the medical field to start off, and then, kind of do real estate on the side, or just purchase a home every couple of years or so. So this academy was also just a couple hours away from my hometown, so I liked that it was close. But the mission, search and rescue, stopping drugs from coming into the States, and everything that I wanted to be involved in, very operational. And I did get to lead a lot of people. I got to meet a lot of really amazing, dedicated citizens. And I got to travel a good amount too, which is very cool. With the Coast Guard, you're pretty much always living on the coast. So that's how I first got to Florida. And I was stationed in Florida for like 3 out of my 4 tours.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Why did I not join the Coast Guard? Ugh. We've had this conversation before too. I'm like, I should have joined the Coast Guard or the Navy. Instead, I went to Oklahoma and Afghanistan with the Air Force. If I could do it
Take
again.
that back. You don't want to be in the Navy.
Okay, Coast Guard then.
Yeah, Coast Guard. Yeah.
And be in Florida. Florida. I like how the New Yorkers and Floridians pronounce it Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Well, New Yorkers are just Floridians, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
once you reach a certain age, I think you just like you get your Florida license when you're in New York, don't you?
Yeah. And I'll probably be like your typical halfback, they call it. Have you guys heard that term?
No. What's that?
You go
So
back half the time.
well, New Yorkers move to Florida thinking, they want to be on vacation. Then they're like, okay, it's a little too redneck, a little too hot, too many hurricanes. We're scared. And they go halfway back to the Carolinas.
Oh, that's funny. No, I haven't heard that. Yeah. That's really funny.
I love North Carolina, so maybe I'll end up there too and be an official halfback.
Yeah. Then you could do be with the original 5 Pillars team in Fayetteville.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, Tori. So, okay, so you got into the Coast Guard. A lot of the people, you already had real estate in mind, and you were kind of like, having some locker room talk or some banter with some of your Coast Guard comrades. And then did you go to school or anything like that? Did you leverage being in the Coast Guard with getting free tuition?
Sorry, I got my undergrad at the Coast Guard Academy. So I got a degree in marine and environmental science, which I haven't used a single day after I graduated. But yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of training beyond that, but it was mostly like law training and stuff like that. So nothing really super helpful for a job afterwards, but I think just more being in the job, learning how to manage people, track a budget. My last tour, I was a Southeast recruiting manager. So I got to check out a lot of places in the Southeast and just manage like a lot of people, which was pretty cool. So I got a lot out of that, which I think has helped in real estate. It also made me have to be a little bit more social. Like I'm definitely an introvert. So I think
Mhm.
the Coast Guard kind of helped me get out of my shell a little bit with that.
Nice.
Amazing. Okay, so where are you at now? Like when did you get your first deal? When did you actually start making moves on your own?
So in the spring of 2017 was when I bought my first home. That was my second tour. So I'd done 2 years in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and then I got stationed in Key West, Florida. I had pulled into port there a couple times to get fuel and port call and just fell in love with it. So I knew I wanted to go there. It was such a special place to me. And so I started just doing tons of research, like right when even before I knew I was going to Key West, I was like, would this be a good place to start my investment journey? I saw that prices had gone up super high before and that they had trended down. Knew that real estate was limited there. They were starting to put a lot of permits on land development. I was like, this is a place where it's going to start.
Mhm.
So I bought my first home there. I did split it with my mom because she was wanting to get into investments too. So I lived there for a year. And that's kind of when I started doing your kind of unconventional house hack. When I was out to sea, I would leave for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. So for a couple patrols, I left all my stuff there and I put it on Airbnb and I would just rent it out for while I was at sea. So that's how it really got started.
All right. Allie, you know what this sounds like?
This sounds like it's the
For
real
deal.
deal.
All right, Tori, this is the first deal that you did as a real estate investor. So give us the tea. It sounds like, obviously it was in Key West. It was in 2017. Tell us how you found the property, how you financed the property, what you got for rent. Give us that whole story.
So I, as a brand new investor, really didn't know what I was doing. So this was on the MLS. I just talked to an agent locally there. I bought on a golf course. It was just outside of Key West, really. It still had a Key West address, but it had an HOA, which I know a lot of people advised not purchasing in, but there were no restrictions. There were actually for like STR for just a couple days at a time, but I knew I wasn't going to be doing that anyway. But I basically had a pool in my backyard. And so that's how I found it just through a real estate agent. I went down there for a weekend and just looked at a bunch of homes. And that was the one.
Wait, you can find deals through a real estate agent?
Well, maybe not a deal. I take that back. It
Yeah.
wasn't a deal. I paid a lot of money for this house.
How much? Yeah, how much did you pay for it?
So I paid $395, and it was tiny. I think it was like 1,200 square feet and just a 1.5. But it was on the newer side. Like it had just been remodeled. It was move-in ready and just beautiful. But I was kind of banking on appreciation here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when land is limited, I think that makes sense. But did you see anything in the house that you wanted to add to it? Did you do any renovations or?
I barely did anything. The second year we redid the bathroom because it just had one of the inserts and it was just kind of ugly and didn't really fit the beauty of the rest of the home. So I redid the bathroom and just made it like a tile shower with a tub. I wanted to add a tub because I knew I was going to be renting it. And I was like, this is kind of the perfect spot for a young couple and a baby. So I wanted to give my renters a tub to have that option to rent to a family with a child.
I hear that, right? I hear a 2-1 or 2-1.5 with 1,200 square feet. And I'm thinking there's a lot more square footage than beds and baths in that place. Like there should be enough room there to add a bedroom, or did you just have a lot of big open space? Like where was all that square footage going?
Maybe it wasn't even that big. I am not sure. But there was like a pretty big downstairs. Like the kitchen like was a decent size. There was a separate little dining nook, like a living room. And with it being a townhome, so it was connected to one other property. But I still had a bit of a backyard. It had 2 screened-in porches. So yeah, there wasn't really a lot of room to expand it.
Okay. And how did you go about financing it?
That was just standard conventional 20%. I think we had 20% down. I think we had like a 4.25 interest rate at the time. Again, and this is why I think being in the Coast Guard allowed me to start off in real estate because that was a pretty hefty down payment, right? But I
Mhm.
had saved up during college and was able to put that money that I had saved towards that down payment.
Did you use the VA loan for that one?
No.
Okay.
And there were a lot of mistakes that I made. Looking back, I actually have still yet to use my VA loan, which is pretty insane. Um, and I should have looking back, but I didn't really know better. I think there's so many misconceptions with the VA loan. I think when you're younger, and in my mind, I was like, oh, like a VA origination fee. I was like, I'm not paying like the extra money to do that, which was silly because the interest rate probably would have been lower, and I probably could have invested the down payment elsewhere.
Yeah. What's funny, what I'm hearing here, Tori, is that like it almost feels silly that you didn't put 5% down. It was your primary residence, or at least 5% down, but maybe even the VA loan on that home. But the fact of the matter is back in 2017, like this strategy was not nearly as popular, and so if people just like didn't know, they didn't hear of it. They thought you had to buy a home with 20% down. I mean, it didn't really start getting popular, I don't think, until like 2019, 2020, 2021 is like when it really started popping off. Um, Maybe after the writing of some book, I don't know which one, but shameless plug, the house hacking strategy. Go pick it up if you haven't already. But but I think like I think that's it, right? Like my first house hack was not perfect either, and I probably wouldn't have bought that property today as a house hack, but it worked out. So, Allie, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the appreciation. You said you're banking on appreciation, and of course, like if you hold on to real estate long enough, you will win. Period. So I'd love to see like how you're up from that. Um, with having done with the only update you said just the bathroom, right? The tub.
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
Just one more point as to why I put down 20%. One, yeah, just the ignorance of not understanding my options. But I had these savings and I was not good at understanding the stock market and investing in other ways. So it was sitting in a savings account and I was like, I might as well put this towards the house to keep my monthly payment down. So that was another reason why. And I think some people do get that mindset. Like I have it, it's not doing anything else for me. Might as well just put it in the property. But that's not a great strategy. But I just wanted to make that point. But yeah, where it's at now. So I actually only lived there for a year and did some Airbnb while I was gone. My BAH did cover the mortgage, but it was just too much. Like our mortgage was about, I think like 2,800 a month, which is a lot. And I was like, I don't need 2 bedrooms. So my second year there, I actually rented a little 1 bedroom really close to work. So I biked to work every day and I rented it just long term for 2 years. So cash flow wasn't a lot. I think like the third year is when we really started cash flowing. But that's also when Key West started to boom. And that also happened to be, when the whole real estate industry was booming. So is that the point in April, that would be of 2022, that we decided to sell it.
Oh, you sold it.
Before we get to the sale, while you had the property, like how much was it renting for, and what was your mortgage payment on it?
So my mortgage payment was about, yeah, like I think 2,900 average. It went up a little bit with insurance and everything. But I was making about that in rent too. For the first 2 years, we were basically breaking even, but we didn't have much maintenance on the home. So we weren't really out of pocket much. It was the third year where our cash flow became, when we got a new renter in, we were making about $150 a month.
And when you originally were renting it out, like the unconventional house hack is of what you were talking about, 4 to 6 weeks at a time with all of your personal belongings in there. I have considered doing this multiple times. My wife has always said no. But how did you take care of your personal belongings? Like, did you put everything in a room and just lock it up, or how did that work?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I marketed as a one and a half. So I did take that second bedroom and put all of my personal belongings in it and locked it up. We also bought the house furnished. So there were a lot of things that I wasn't crazy about that I just like the couch, it was a couch that I would have never have bought, but it was super nice. And obviously like, I'm not going to get rid of it. I actually did sell a lot. So I did make a couple $1,000 back from the furniture that I didn't need or like. So that made me feel better. But yeah, I would just lock all my stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, man, I've always thought about doing that, or even just like renting out a room again. My wife won't let me, but I'm so glad you did. I'm
Yeah.
living
It
through you.
wasn't easy. I mean, I came home, and it didn't really feel like my home. Like it was a little tough. I think we pulled into port one time after like being out to sea for 4 weeks, and I had to stay in a hotel because my place was rented. Like that's tough, wasn't that big of a deal, but I wanted to be home. So there definitely was some sacrifice in it, but it was well worth it. I mean, that month that I Airbnb'd it, I think I made close to $4,000 for a month while I was out at sea. So, I wasn't cash flowing a lot in the first couple of years, but I was basically living for free in that month, made like $2,000.
So why not? How come you didn't just continue to short-term rent it?
So looking back, I probably should have. Key West is a very isolated location. Like it's not easy to get to. Flights are very expensive. I, to this day, kind of struggle handing over my properties to other people. I like interacting with guests. I like keeping an eye on things. But looking back, I probably should have short-term rented it. But I was a little bit fearful that some months would just be too slow and that I wouldn't get enough Airbnb stays. And that mortgage was pretty big that I was too fearful to let it sit empty for any period of time. So once I moved, because I was only there for 2 years, it just felt safer to have a long-term tenant in it. And, hurricanes are a pretty big deal in Key West, and it made me nervous, like with short-term rentals and stuff. I put in my leases for my long-term tenant that they were responsible like for boarding up the house, putting the hurricane shutters on and everything. So there were a couple of reasons. I also had never Airbnb anything like prior to that, so I was a little fearful to do it full time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then, so how much did you sell that property for?
$660,000.
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this really hard question. Did you think it was worth buying a property in 2017 for 60 grand, like basically $60,000 down, or maybe $80,000 down? You basically bought it at 400. You got $0 of cash flow for, let's just say, for all intents and purposes, let's say it was $0 of cash flow for 5 years, and then you sold it for like $250,000 more. Worth it? Would you do that again?
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? And I think just, and I wanted to ask that mainly because today, with higher interest rates, even though there is the 2-1 buy downs and all that kind of stuff that can make cash flow in the short term okay, usually buying real estate is going to be worth it one way or the other. Like even if either you're going to get a lot of cash flow and you're not going to get a whole lot of appreciation, or you're in a market where you get not a whole lot of cash flow, especially right now, but the appreciation is so great, it's like life changing. I mean, $250,000 in 5 years, like I think a lot of people would do that. So, yeah. Also, so I want to hear, Tori, like where you went to next, right? Did you do anything from 2017 to 2022 when you sold that in terms of real estate, or were you just guarding the coast?
So I was still in the Coast Guard. And that was another reason why I didn't want to Airbnb, because, I did have a pretty demanding job and I needed to be pretty focused. But, in real estate too, they say like, don't ever sell. But yeah, when you can make like a pretty easy $250,000, I was like, it's time to sell. And again, like every hurricane season, I was just so tense and just so worried about the home. So it made sense to get rid of it. But yeah, I used a 1031 exchange to buy a triplex.
Okay. And so wait, hold on 1 second. You said you sold this thing in April 2022. That was like the peak of the peak. Like, how did you know?
I didn't really, I mean,
It's women's intuition, Craig.
yeah, I think I may be like
I need some of
a
that.
little.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gifted or luck, but I do try to track everything as much as possible. Sometimes there is no rhyme or reason, but we were wanting to sell it for like a year or two. And we just kind of kept holding out. I kept telling my mom, I was like, no, we got to wait. Like, we got to wait. And then it was like the fall. And she was like, okay, like we're through another hurricane season. Like, I don't want to go through another. So just wait till the spring. And so we got to the spring, listed it. We actually didn't even list it, which was stupid. I should have listed it. But I had a tenant in there who had a lot of stuff. Like, it was going to be very hard to show. And I didn't want to go through that. The house was also getting to a point where it was going to need some maintenance. Like, the kitchen was starting to look a little outdated. Like, the fence, the house itself really needed to be painted. Like, Key West gets a beating from rain, tons of sun. And so everything was kind of aligning that it just felt right in the timing. Like, I was like, could the market go up a little bit more? And it actually did. I think we probably could have made a little bit more. But it was also like $250,000 is okay too. Like, let's not be silly about this and be greedy.
Yeah. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. Awesome. So, okay. So tell us about this 1031 exchange. So like, tell us about that process. Like, I don't think we've talked much about like, how do you go about even doing a 1031 exchange? What are some of the nuances?
So you do need a really good lawyer. I would say the one we had was just okay. And this is where my mom came in clutch, because she really took care of all this. I think I was moving when we were doing this, and she really just took it on, and handled all the paperwork. Obviously there's pretty strict timelines, and in 2022, it's not like you were guaranteed to get a house you never are, but it was obviously 10 times harder when 10 offers are being put on a house in the matter of 24 hours. So it was really stressful because we were so limited on time. But yeah, I would say have a good lawyer, talk to an agent who has done it before, make sure that they're fully understanding what you are looking for to a T, and give them feedback when they send you listings. Like, don't just say, oh, I don't like that one. Tell them, no, I don't like this because of this, and I need this instead of that, so that they're really on it. And when that house does come up, you could jump on it fast.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think the most important thing here is that make sure, you've got a good lawyer, make sure that that money never touches your bank account, right? Like, once you do a sale, if that money touches your bank account, the 1031 exchange is off, you're paying taxes on it. And so you got to keep it through that third party intermediary. And I think it'll probably differ state by state, but yeah. Okay. And so where did you get this triplex? How did you find it? What does that look like?
So this was also on market. It had fallen out of contract, I think, once or twice. So it was not perfect. It's an older home. It had some fungus. It had some termite damage. Everything was outdated. And I think some people had just put it in offer to get it as quickly as they could. And then once they got the inspection, or went to see it for the first time in person, because they probably just had an agent write up an offer by looking at it on Zillow, they got scared and they backed out. So I was tracking this house. I saw when it had gotten put back on the market again, and I wrote a letter explaining that I am not afraid of old homes. I kind of gave my resume of the houses that I fixed up, because there was one or two between this that I'll tell you about as well. But I just explained to them, no matter what the inspection report says, unless it's, something over like $25,000 or something crazy, we're good. Like, this is going to happen. So yeah, that's how we got it.
Yeah, that's super smart to do, and just like the level of communication that you clearly have. One, I'm sure it reflects with the agents that you, or the clients that you're working with now as an agent, but also like when you said it's like super important to relay to your agent exactly what you're looking for. That is so key, and I think a lot of new investors always, maybe not always, but just like they forget to do that, or maybe they feel bad, like they don't want to annoy their agent by saying, hey, I actually don't like the properties that you're sending me because of XYZ reason, but otherwise it's just going to continue. That agent is just going to continue feeding you properties that they think you like, you don't like, but no one talks. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I have a question. related. Okay, so you sold the other property because you like foresaw some maintenance stuff, but you turned around and you're purchasing a property with a lot of maintenance stuff. What was in a different area, of course. What was the reasoning behind that?
So I knew I was moving back to Pensacola. So after Key West, I was stationed here, and then I moved to Washington, D.C. But I knew that I was getting out of the Coast Guard and moving back. My mom had moved here. I had 2 other properties in Pensacola that I had gotten while I was stationed here. So I just knew I wanted everything together. I knew that I would be able to be on site, property manage, and do my thing.
So are you a halfback?
She's a
Well,
quarterback.
I'm a fullback. Yeah.
You're a fullback. I thought you said you
Yeah.
moved to DC. Isn't that like halfway?
Yeah, but that was really, that would, I guess, consider me a quarterback. But that was against my will. I did not want to be there.
Okay. Sorry, I had to drop that. You literally, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So this triplex, like, what did you end up buying? So what did you end up buying it for? What did the mortgage look like on that? What was it getting rented for? What was your strategy on it?
So I bought it for $400,000, did that 1031, and my mom and I paid the rest in cash. So we bought it outright, which again, looking back, probably shouldn't have done, especially with the interest rates being low. But we were scared about the timeline. And we also used the cash offer to negotiate and to get the house. We did, I think, get it I forget what it was listed for. I think it was listed for like 430 maybe. And because of some of the work that it needed, we were aware of ahead of time, because I think I walked it, or I had my contractor meet my agent over there. And also because that it fell through twice, they were very willing to tell us what was wrong with it so that it wouldn't happen a third time. So we were able to use all of that to negotiate, I think, like 30,000 off during 2022.
Wow, that's crazy. But okay, I've got a question. You sold your house for 660 and you bought this one for 440 or whatever. Like, I thought you had to do a 1031 exchange and had to be an increase purchase price. What happened there?
Because my mom and I were both on the mortgage when we sold this property. She only had to do her 1031 to avoid the capital gains on it. I did not have to because I was active duty and it was my primary residence. The timeline worked out where it was my primary residence for enough time for me to not have to pay capital gains on it. So we only had to pay $330 with the 1031.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. And so what was the mortgage payment on this property? What were you doing? How did you get rented out? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So our cost to run it really per month is only about $600 because we paid for it with cash. So we do cover some of the utilities like water, trash, because it is all shared, that we just include that in rent. We did put about like 25,000 into repairs to update it. But we rent them all out long term right now, and we have been able to increase the rent from the original tenants that lived there when we moved in. So right now we're making just over $4,000 per month in rent. So we're cash flowing about $3,500 a month. And I think it's actually a duplex and a separate cottage in the back, which is a studio. That was a little bit hard to get a renter in there long term because people don't necessarily want a studio all the time. So I think I'm actually going to convert that one into an Airbnb this summer. So hopefully that cash flow will increase even more.
That's awesome. And so, sorry, you might have said this, but I think I might have blanked. How did you get that mortgage payment so low? Like just like $500 a month?
So that's just utilities. So between the 1031 and like what we had made from the other house, my mom and I had split the difference in cash because we had just saved up. She had a pretty decent job, like I had a pretty decent job, and we're just good savers. So we paid the rest. So we paid the house and all the renovations in cash. So we had zero mortgage, and we just were paying some utility like the water and trash and just any other maintenance that came up. And I self-manage everything. So
that's amazing. So one property at $3,500, that's like financial independence for a lot of people, right? That's amazing. And so curious as to like, where you kind of went next after that, right? Because now we're still in 2022 here.
Yeah. So kind of, do you mind if I go back a little? Because that was
Yeah.
not really the first one. So when I was stationed in Pensacola after Key West, that was really like my home run deal. I had gotten this 3-2 house. It needed a ton of work. Again, like got it on the MLS with an agent. It was 2019, the spring of 2019. So houses were sitting. Like this was on the market, I think, for like 3 months. And so I put in an aggressive offer and I ended up getting it for like $190,000, which is just insane to think about now here in Pensacola. But I put a lot of work into it. Like over the last 4 years, I probably put like 65,000, but that was my first real, I guess. So Key West was kind of a house hack, but this house I lived in full time, I converted it into a 2-1 that I lived in and converted the upstairs into an Airbnb. So that's where I started Airbnb full
Okay.
time.
And so, yeah, okay, awesome. And so that, I mean, that all sounds like amazing. So now you're starting to really get into the short-term game. I can tell that you're like, you like to get creative, right? Like I feel like you're,
Yeah.
you and I
Yeah,
would get along great.
100%.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no,
you like to buy good areas that you can like force the cash flow by doing something kind of cool.
yeah. It's so funny that you picked up on that because when people ask me like, why real estate? It's like I needed a job that I could be creative. Like I'm a very artsy, like I like to think and move walls and things around, and it's my favorite part of real estate. I needed a job where I could be creative, and that's real estate.
Yeah. And on the financing too, especially being that your very first agent or maybe the very first lender that you had like didn't tell you that you didn't have to put 20% down. At the end of the day, that 80,000 turned into like, almost $300,000 extra added to your net worth, which is a win. But you also could have gone a different route, like had you had an agent that was a little bit more creative, like you are, like you are. So um yeah, I don't know. But at what point, I want to talk about you becoming an agent. What year did you get your license? Where do you work?
So I got my license and I started taking all the courses, I think in like 2021. I took a really long time because again, I had a pretty difficult job at the Coast Guard. So I had just taken my time getting the course, but I became active in April of 2023.
Oh wow, so pretty recent. What was that decision? Like why?
I started to really hate going to work every day. I didn't like being in DC. I wanted to live by my properties. I, was starting to do well with all my hard work from the properties from a couple years in the past. And I wanted to do that full time. I loved house hacking. I wanted to come back to Pensacola because it's a great spot and there's still a lot of military. So I still wanted to be connected to service members. So I thought the perfect thing to do would be to get into real estate full time in a military town. So I'm hoping, to really have, if not like 100%, a majority of my clientele be active duty veterans, and hopefully help them house hack because I've done so many different strategies house hacking and it's been so amazing for me. And I love to teach. So using my creative mind to make a property work for my clients is something I absolutely love to do. I love to talk about it. I kind of don't shut up about it. And I just wanted to do that full time and make money doing it, right? Like I wake up enjoying doing that on a daily basis.
We hope this episode is inspiring you to take action. If you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or an agent who wants to join an investor-friendly team, just hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy because we are growing our team in Denver, Seattle, San Diego, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but also adding to our network in all 50 states. And if you didn't already know this, the Fi team provides a super supportive environment with one-on-one coaching, accountability, and ongoing training to help develop kick-ass, rock star, investor-friendly real estate agents. So hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, shoot me a DM, and we'll set up a time to chat. Can't wait to chat with you.
All right. So what do you think are some like, let's just say like the top 3 ways that people can get creative that, the average person wouldn't be able to see in a house that you feel like you help your clients with and that maybe, some of our listeners could take away?
Sure. So pros and cons to a lot of homes, right? Like I buy all old homes. I don't think I've really purchased a home after the Key West one that's newer than 1930. Why do I do this? One, because it's super unique. Like it's got character, right? So you have the ability to do short, medium, or long term, most likely if you have a cool property. What else? What else is really amazing about older properties is that they have a ton of little spaces. They have tons of doors. So when I'm walking a property, I'm looking to see, okay, what section is connected to a bathroom? What area can I maybe add a little kitchenette to? Like, how can this be divided? And so old homes are something that I look for and just really pay attention to plumbing. Maybe if there's not a bathroom, like what wall is it like parallel to another bathroom or a kitchen where you could easily plumb it. So old homes here in Pensacola too are also all crawl space. Now, does that leave the opportunity to have termite damage and dry rot and all that? Yeah, for sure. But you're probably going to have to do some work to these homes, but that's okay because you're just going to make some more value by, adding it. So yeah, with a crawl space though, it makes it easier to move plumbing around. Like if you're on a brick or if you're buying a brick house on a slab, like adding a bathroom and putting in a drain line is insanely expensive. So yeah, I kind of focus on older homes, looking for doors, looking for plumbing. Zoning's obviously important too. Luckily here in Pensacola, they're not super strict on allowing accessory dwelling units. And a lot of the new constructions are actually adding separate rentals in the back. So you could get a home, live really separate from your rental and still make a ton of money. But some of these older homes, they have an amazing layout of kind of a shotgun style. So you could do front portion of the house, one unit, and the back more of like a mother-in-law suite because you can't legally convert it to a duplex on a single family zoned lot. But you can do a mother-in-law suite. So I've done that a couple times actually, just kind of converting into two. But look for garage space. Like if I see a big workshop, I'm like, is there electric here? Is there running water? Like all things to consider. I always look to see if there are separate meters, separate panels. Like adding a second panel is a cheaper way to be able to charge your tenants electric without adding a separate meter, because then you are kind of getting into zoning and stuff. So reason being, you could put a wireless electric meter on a different panel and charge them through turbo tenant. That's what I do on some of mine. And it's so cost effective.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's awesome stuff. So, I mean, I've never heard anybody say like look for older homes, right? Because they are so, so funky. But, I think that's not, I think what a lot of investors do, what you need to do is like find the good in what everybody else thinks is bad, because that's how you get good deals, right? And so everybody else doesn't like old homes. Well, you go find something, go find a charming Airbnb, find something where like there's crawl space or the basement is like big enough to walk down, but not big enough to live in, right? A lot of those 1920s basements, maybe not in Florida, but like in Denver, for example, those older homes, the basements are like 5.5, maybe 6 feet tall. You can't live down there, but you got access to all the plumbing. So that makes it super easy. And so you could add stuff a lot easier. I love that. Um, and so Tori, where is your portfolio at today? Let's do like the 1-2, skip a few.
Sure. So I have the one triplex in Pensacola. I have another 2 duplexes here, and I help manage another duplex and started up an Airbnb there, but I don't own that one. And then I have another duplex in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay. So you've got a handful of properties now. And where are you at, like, roughly in terms of cash flow per month and maybe equity in those properties since you started investing in 2017?
Sure. So cash flow wise, about 6,000 per month between all of those, and equity. So I only have mortgages on 2 of those, and I probably have about like 500,000 in equity between like the 2 homes that I have a mortgage on, and then the other ones. Sorry, I should have this right now. I think about like 900.
Wow. So you got a total of $1.4 million in equity in like 4 properties and $6,000 a month coming in. I mean, And you did that in, we're recording this at the end of 2023. So you did that in like a little over 6 years. That's incredible. This is what we talk about. Like when we say that real estate can make you become financially independent and wealthy in like 5 to 7 years, it is like proven time and time and time again that like, and you weren't anything, I mean, you are special, Tori, but like you told us your beginnings and where you came from, right? You know, your mom was tearing wallpaper off of houses. Your uncle helped, but he was a plow guy and a gym teacher. Like by no means were these people like, by no means were you gifted any of this. And so it just shows you that no matter where you're at, you could just, if you just get started today, 5 to 7 years from now, you can be exactly where Tori's sitting.
Yeah. And it's funny, I would have never have expected this. And even to this day, like this is kind of a good reality check for me that I am doing okay. Because it seems pretty often that like they're not going well. Because I think back, I'm like, wow, I have so much money that I put into all this that I'm having to be paid back for. But I think in like 10 years from now, so that duplex, that first house hack that I got, I actually did a 15-year mortgage on, and I'm making $2,000 a month from that now with the mortgage. So in 10 years, that's going to be paid off, that someone else had paid it for me. And I'll be making probably $5,000 a month for it. And that was over one house, and all in, I was like 250. It can really just happen with one home. Like it's crazy. You could also, do pretty poorly with just one. But like Ali was saying, like with time you will win. And I'm not in it for the long haul with these properties. But yeah, I mean, it was scary along the way. Like when I first bought that one, I was like, oh my God, like what if the market crashes? I'm out all this money. What if I can never rent it? Like it was on the market for 90 days before I bought it, and it had a lot of issues. And yeah, one hurricane, I was like, it's all over.
Yeah.
But you just have to, talk to the right people, continue learning, and just trust that with time, it'll all work out.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I love that. Awesome, Tori. Well, we're getting into the final part of our show, but before we get there, we'd like to ask you if you've got any parting words of wisdom for the audience.
Yeah. So just kind of like reminders, like Ali, I was actually going to bring up the fact that, real estate can be a long-term win for anyone. Even if you pay more than you wanted to in the beginning, like in 20 years, you'll be fine. Even if you were planning on selling it in 5 years and you have to hold on to it for 7 years as opposed to your original plan of 5, you'll probably do okay, right? Depending on the house, of course. Yeah, parting words, like just connect with the right people. Like there are a lot of people like me out there, probably who you're working with. So just talk to everyone you can about your interest in real estate, and you could probably learn from them or at least get motivated. And people are out there wanting to help. Like I was trying to help as many active duty members as I could before even becoming an agent. And I'm sure whether you're active duty or not, you probably have someone at work who knows something about the real estate market and how to invest, or they have a friend or family that could probably connect you. So just ask as many questions as you can.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. All right, Ali, you know what time it is?
It's time for the
Final
four.
Kick us off, Ali.
Alrighty, Craig. Question number 1, Tori. What book are you currently reading?
So I should have read this like 6 months ago, but I'm reading Sold by David Green.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I read Facebook a lot. Like I know that kind of sounds silly, but I am part of so many real estate and investor Facebook groups, and I'm constantly reading them. People have some amazing questions, and yeah, not always a very credible source, but everyone has got to comment. Even if someone said the same thing like 8,000 times, people are still doing it. And if you see that info being said over and over and over, like they're probably right. So I learn a lot from Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. So do I. Especially seeing how other people, other agents in other states do things. I'm like, ooh, I can incorporate that to Arizona and make my offers stand out, or, anything like that.
Yeah. So my book right now is Facebook, I guess.
Facebook,
Love
the
it. Hey,
Facebook.
that is a book, right?
Yeah.
All right. Tori, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, a lot of things have not gone right during some of these renovations and some of these purchases. A lot of things have gone well, but things I would do differently and do over. But I've been recently reminded by a friend of mine in real estate that every single person who's an investor has had a fail in real estate, and it could be small and it could be big. But they end up winning in the end if you stick with it. So I would say kind of advice, but more of a reminder is keep pushing through. You learn from these mistakes, and it's really scary because you're often talking big money and it's a big deal, but you just keep pushing forward, and be creative. And again, ask questions and talk to other people just to understand that everyone has gone through some hurdle and has made it out in the end.
That's a really good point, especially since a lot of, especially like podcasts and books and the Facebook, people talk so positively, like here are my wins, successes, but they don't talk about the hurdles and that they have gone through that other people are currently going through, thinking that it's the end for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question number 3: what is your why?
My why I got into real estate, we kind of touched on it, is because I wanted to be creative. I wanted to use my mind and be challenged every day. I wake up loving my job. I love talking real estate. I love teaching people how to maybe house hack or how to go through the process of purchasing a home. But there's so many different directions in real estate that my mind is constantly going to be challenged, and I'm constantly learning. And I like that I could be flexible in the path that kind of pulls me in.
I like that.
Love it.
I would never be like, I don't have the creative mind. I would never be able to go into a house and be like, ooh, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to need you to come over here to Tucson and help me.
Never been to Arizona, so yeah, fly me on in.
All right.
There you go. It's warm there, so I think you would be just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tori. Okay, this is the last and final question. What do you think is the worst thing that a person can put in their bio on a dating app?
Ooh, this is a good one, Craig.
Message me on Snapchat.
Oh,
That's good.
Or
there you
put
go.
their
That's good.
Snapchat or something. Yeah. Immediate
That's
red
good.
flag.
Immediate red flag.
Yeah.
Allie, what's your? I mean, I guess we're past the dating app days now.
Yeah. Oh, but I have several. I have,
Okay,
yeah.
give-
Ooh, I have like a
lay
whole
them out.
checklist on. All right, here we go. Here we
Give me
go.
like 2, 3. Give me, yeah.
First of all, the photo should be just you. If you are with a crowd, forget it. Next.
Mm.
Second of all, if there is anything related to, I don't want to divide the crowd, but politics. But however, that is also my first question that I used to ask. First question, number 1, politics. Otherwise, there's no chance. I'll stop there. That's my answer.
Fair enough. That's funny.
Yeah. What's
Cool.
yours? Or what would be yours?
I was hoping.
He's trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to get out of it. I don't know. I think anything. I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't been on the dating apps. I guess like if you.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, it would probably be, like if you have some sort of like, if your profile is like centered around drinking or like partying or that, or if your profile is like a bunch of the same picture with the Snapchat filter that makes you like lose all your wrinkles and not actually show your real face, and with like the cat or whatever.
The bunny,
or the bunny or whatever. Maybe that's not happening anymore. But when I used to see that, I was like, "You're clearly ugly." So
Yeah. That's funny. Clearly you're ugly.
Anyway, Tori, where can people find out more about you?
So I am on Facebook, obviously, Tori Borges. Also on Instagram, Real Tori, what's the line on the bottom?
Underscore.
Underscore.
Yeah.
There it is. Rose.
Yeah.
So REALTORI _ Rose, ROSE.
Amazing.
And we will not be able to find you on the Snapchat, I presume.
Yeah, I'll block you. No, I do.
She'll block you. So she's got one. Yeah.
I do have one, but with friends, not randos off whatever
Yeah.
app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's so funny. I forgot Snapchat was a thing, honestly. I haven't been on Snapchat in years. I think I'm too old for it.
Okay, I go on Snapchat.
Really?
Yeah, I don't talk to anybody anymore, but I really like the feature how you can like explore the world. You can zoom in and like, find like the hot spots and like what's happening in Dubai, what's happening in Kandahar right now. Like I'll do this once a week. Me and my wife, as we're going to bed, I'm like, hey, let's go on a trip. And we open up Snapchat
Wow.
and we're hanging out in Sydney, Australia. I don't know. I really like that feature. I hope they never get rid of that feature because that's the only social media that has it, like the current view, like what is happening in a club right now in Sydney, like, I don't know. I'm living through the other people clearly.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was a thing. For some reason, it was just like a college and like really running out of college thing that people did it. And then I don't know, I deleted it and I like totally forgot I had it. And I forgot Snapchat even existed.
I still have it because I see the most ridiculous things walking properties or doing my own. Like I tore off some drywall a couple months ago, and the electrical cord was going directly through the water line. So like that's something I sent to Snapchat out just so people could get a laugh.
Yeah.
Probably a fire hazard. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening all the way till the end of Tori's part. We still got a little bit of an outro for you. Tori, thanks so much for coming on. And thank you so much for, giving us an hour of your time here and talking all about your story. We super appreciate it. I'm finally glad that we got to quasi meet here over the interwebs, and maybe at the next conference, we'll make sure to meet in person.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me share my story.
All right. See you later, Tori.
Bye.
See you, Tori.
And that was Tori Borges. Allie, what'd you think about Tori?
I love her snowball story, like starting with an 80-ish $1,000 down payment, turning into $6,000 a month of cash flow right now, like a couple of properties paid off, her net worth being around probably even more than 1.5 million. Like what a cool story. I'm glad that we got to interview her.
Yeah, I mean, I think the formula is there, right? Like if you're listening to this and you're not a millionaire, and you want to become a millionaire, like it's a very, very attainable thing if you just follow this process of house hack once a year for 3 to 4 years, and like certainly within 5 to 7 years you'll be a millionaire, right? And you're going to also develop a lot of skills that are going to get you closer to being a millionaire as well. Even if it's not just buying real estate, but there's going to be so many other things that you learn with investing as you start to buy, so many people that you'll start to meet that will give you great opportunities. Like real estate investing is so much more than just the cash on cash returns, but it's also like having something to talk about when you go to a conference, so someone else also wants to talk to you, and then you've got potential opportunities there, right? But there's so many intangibles that people don't really talk about when investing in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all starts with like, you can get so much further ahead if you talk to an investor friendly agent that specializes in house hacking that knows what the heck you're looking for. Like those
Mhm.
are not common to find. So, once again, another agent that's like that's done it themselves, which is I think pretty hard to find.
Absolutely. And obviously, we're going to have to do a shameless plug here where if you need an investor friendly agent and you're in Denver, California, or Idaho, make sure you go hit up the FI team. And otherwise, I think Allie's got you in Arizona, Florida, and probably 1.5 million other places. So,
We just expanded to Portugal. I don't know if I told you.
no,
Uh,
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
yeah. I'm pumped. But if you have not given this show a rating or a review, like Craig said in the beginning, I thought that was really cool. If you send us a screenshot of your rating or review, I will post it if it's funny. Make it a positive, funny one, 5-star. I will promise you right now, I will post it and share your story. So let us know, Allie the agent, the FI guy, give us a 5-star review, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.